Hello everybody, Yuno here. Welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. And last episode, Kazuma died. Sadly, the one guy I was thirsting over the first few episodes is now gone. We're suspected of his killing, true Ace Attorney fashion. So we've got to investigate, prove our innocence, yada yada yada. So let's convert. Okay, we already conversed. So let's examine. Bolted door would be the first thing. When I went for help and the crewman forced the door open, this bolt had been firmly closed. It is quite a small bolt and not particularly sturdy, and it just slides across to secure the door shut. But still, with the door bolted, there would be no way to get in or out of the cabin, that's for sure. It's no wonder everyone suspects me. I wonder if it's magnetic. No, the door wouldn't be that thin, would it? When she glares at me like that, I feel tense all up and down my spine. I remember reading once in a detective novel. The culprit used a needle and thread to draw a bolt across from outside the room in a situation like this. Yes, that's a clever trick, isn't it? I'm an avid reader of detective stories myself, but the door of this cabin and its frame are made of metal, and they seal together perfectly. There would be no possibility of using that needle and thread trick here, I'm afraid. When she glares at me like that, I feel pins and needles all up and down my spine. Oh dear, that won't do. Oh, what's the matter, Susato-san? Whenever I'm examining things, I always find myself so focused I forget to look around properly. Ah, yes, that's not good. I don't suppose you're as foolish as me in that regard, are you, Naruhodo-san? Sure, you're careful to look all around using... aren't you? Now let's investigate all corners of this cabin. Yes, let's do that. I suppose my field of vision has been rather small up until now. Were these always knocked over? The books have fallen over on the shelf, look. They've all toppled the same way. And what's this, a statue of some god of the sea? Although he's fallen over as well. Yes, it's almost as if the whole shelf had been ransacked, and everything mown down at once. Oh, maybe Kazuma had something that somebody was after. I wonder if perhaps it was Kazuma-sama doing his morning sword training, do you think? I seriously doubt it. Then perhaps it was you, Naruhodo-san, in a fit of rage. I wouldn't have bothered leaving the wardrobe just to mess up a few books and a statue. Could the way these things have been thrown about have anything to do with the case, I wonder? I think it's important. Well, I'll just set everything straight again. I don't like to see a mess. Alright. Is this examinable? These are the rules of passage for travel aboard the SS Buria. It's essentially a list of requests from the captain to all passengers on board. Passengers must not keep weapons or other dangerous objects in their cabins. Pets are also strictly forbidden. Ryunosuke was definitely not following that. What? Why are you staring at me? Oh, sorry. I was just thinking. Are you more of a dangerous object or a pet? I think to Kazuma I'd be more of a pet. I can't decide. Well, one thing's for sure, either way I wasn't supposed to be in here. Perhaps I should see what this Russian crewman makes of the scene of the crime. Excuse me. What? I was wondering how it's going, the investigation, I mean. Grandmother told me Japanese people do not make jokes, but it is not true, I see. Sorry? The criminal asking investigator for information about his crime, very funny. Oh, it wasn't supposed to be a joke. He doesn't appear to be laughing either. He's convinced you're guilty. He might have useful information, though I have to keep trying. So last night, you think I was saying anything out of the ordinary at all? Nyat! Of course not. Now back to corner of room and make silent. I say no more to you. Did I hit a nerve? Just for a minute there, he seemed a little flustered. Oh, he knows something. There's Kazuma's sword. That's Kazuma-sama's precious sword. He never went anywhere without it. Yes, he was always saying that a Japanese man's katana is his soul. I believe he had to work very hard to convince the government to allow him to bring it on this trip. I suppose that shows just how important it was to him. And now he's gone. But I'm not ready to let his spirit go just yet. What's this? That's my dinner from last night. A roast chicken. It was really tasty. For some reason, he put it in a dog bowl, though, and fed it to me. Told me to get on all fours and eat it. Yes, it was very delicious, wasn't it? But, did you eat it on the floor here? Yes. I'm not a dog, Susato-san. I ate at the table, of course. Sure you did, Ryunosuke. Which begs the question of when and how the plate ended up on the floor. Kazuma-sama didn't like chicken at all, did he? No, that's not right. That's right. So he didn't touch it. Which meant all the more for me. Oh no, does that mean poor Kazuma-sama spent his last night on this earth with an empty belly? It's just too horrible. Ugh. Now I suddenly have a guilty conscience and an achy stomach. What is this? What do you think this is? It looks like a broken piece of glassware. Whatever the thing was, it appears to have been broken clean in two. The glass is such a beautiful color. It looks like a cute little Natsuke fastener from a kimono outfit. I'm not sure that sounds like Kazuma. He wouldn't have secretly carried a cute little trinket like this around with him, would he? And the mark beside it, what is it, I wonder? It has a sort of brick-like hue. Yes, you're right, it is the color of a brick, isn't it? Even though I don't see anything of the same color anywhere else in the cabin. That's a very large traveling case, isn't it? Yes, it carries a lot of memories for me. Memories? What do you mean? Well, that's actually how I stowed away on this vessel. I was brought on board inside that case. Ah, yes, I see it says "this way up" in Japanese. Which in hindsight, I should have realized the foreign crewmen wouldn't be able to read. I was turned over and over and over, and then I was tossed on the floor in here. Oh dear. Being a stowaway isn't as romantic as it sounds. Well, it was less painful than a Susato takedown. I don't know, it was him and Kazuma. That's pretty romantic, right? This is where the body was. Did Kazuma write that before he died? It looks like it's written in ink. He must have knocked the ink pot from the desk when he collapsed on the floor. Then I suppose he wrote this message by dipping his finger in the spillage. Poor Kazuma-sama, no doubt he was in terrible pain. It's almost unbearable to imagine it. I suppose he was trying to leave some kind of a clue in his final moments, was he? I'm sorry, partner, but I can't read your writing. I don't think that's Japanese, Naruhodo-san. What? Then what language is it? It pains me to admit it, but I don't know. It's not a foreign script I'm familiar with. What does it mean, I wonder? This is where Kazuma-sama would have sat whenever he was writing. London Diary. Poor Kazuma, he didn't even make it to his destination. It looks as though his last entry is incomplete. Which means, what, he was in the middle of writing it when the incident happened? Let's see what it says. It could be a valuable clue. Hiya! That's out of the question. What? Kazuma-sama may have departed this world, but you must not read his private thoughts. But what if it's something important, something relevant to the case? Alright, I won't read it. We're getting flipped every which direction this trip. Poor Kazuma-sama. I don't like prying into people's personal matters either. But in this case, isn't the need for clues more important? It's some 2 weeks since we I can't speak. It's some 2 weeks since we set sail from Japan. Have you really been living in that wardrobe the entire time, Naruhodo-san? I think living isn't quite the right description. Oh, no, I suppose not. Although it must have been rather exciting making this voyage in your own secret hideout. The trouble was, I never knew when a member of the crew might come in. So yes, I did basically have to live in the wardrobe. And last night was no exception. But because of that, you had no idea what was happening out here in the cabin. No, sadly not. This is... yes, it's a bell cord contraption, I think. What do you mean, contraption? I read about it in a book I was studying that talked about life in Great Britain. Large households often have bell cords like this, which you can pull to ring a bell to summon servants. Really? That sounds almost magical. Shall we give it a little try? Yes! In the interest of cultural research, obviously. And nothing happened. I suppose nobody comes for lowly Japanese people. No, I'm sure it's just that everyone is busy, that's all. Alright, did I miss anything? Oh! Okay, that's good to know. I think that's some kind of opening for a ventilator. A hole through which fresh air can circulate into the cabin. Isn't that a little odd? What do you mean? Well, this ventilator, if that's what it is, looks like it must connect to the next door cabin. Yes, it would appear to, you're right. But if its purpose is to allow fresh air into the room, surely it should be connected to the outside. That's true. Perhaps so that rain and spray don't find their way in when the seas are rough or something like that. I suppose. Maybe that's it. Who's that? He wasn't there a minute ago. As far as I can tell, it looks like he might be European. Oh, how did he... You've noticed the man too, have you? I have no idea who he is or how he got in here, but he looks suspicious and tall. Suspiciously tall! Yeah, everyone knows tall people are suspicious. Naruhodo-san, don't tell me. Do you really not know who that is? Well, no. I don't have any foreign friends or acquaintances at all. He doesn't look like a member of the crew. There's something very unusual about him. And he is investigating Kazuma's desk, or is he just playing on it? I can't tell. Well, in that case, we must simply talk with him. Am I just imagining it, or does Sasato-san look almost uncontrollably excited? Oh, she's a fangirl. By the way, I expect that you've noticed already, but just in case, if you press A on people when they're in crosshairs, you can converse with them. Alright then, I'll get that suspiciously tall gentleman in my sights and see what he has to say for himself. Oh, please do. Excuse me. Excuse me, do you have a moment? Shh. This is a critical point in my investigation. Maybe I should leave him alone. He seems a little unfriendly. Yes, perhaps that would be for the best. Greetings. I hope I haven't kept you long. Ah! What exactly were you doing on Kazuma's desk just now? Ah, I see. Fascinating. Sorry, what do you see? Feels like he's looking right through me. Oh yes, everything is clear now. The train of reasoning has run its course, my deductions have crystallized. You have been in Afghanistan, I perceive. Just recently returned, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry? What? And now, whilst venturing toward foreign climes, you find yourself in a most troubling predicament. Oh, well, that's true at least. But how? How the deuce did I know that, perhaps? It was really a most elementary deduction, hardly worth explaining. Have you perhaps managed to deduce anything else? But of course, a great many things. There is no mystery, my dear madam. For example, you have fled your native land of Russia, being as you are a merciless revolutionary. You leave 16 victims of assassination in your wake, and now travel to England to blow up the Crystal Tower. And, when the bare-boned occupant of this very cabin discovered your identity, you ended his life too. Yes, I believe that summarizes the facts beautifully. No need to hide the truth now, nothing deceives these eyes. Just to be clear, you're talking about me, are you? Certainly I am. Do you see another in this cabin who fits the bill? A Russian assassin with 16 victims to his name? I don't even see one person who fits the bill. So it's true. It was you who did this to Kazuma-sama. What? And you're plotting a revolution too. It's shameful behavior, Naruhodo-san. Absolutely wicked! No, listen, there's no way Hiya! And we got flipped again. Now explain yourself. Tell me everything. This is ridiculous. Oh, think you say a reason with these people, Naruhodo. How could you do it? For pity's sake, open your eyes. I'm not a Russian revolutionary, obviously. Oh, forgive me. And as for you, what kind of deduction was that? You were just saying the first thing that came into your head. Ah, but was I not right? Whilst venturing toward foreign climes, you do find yourself in a most troubling predicament, do you not? Well, yes, maybe. Ha! There you have it, you see. What do you make of that, hmm? Well, to be honest, the ship is en route to England, and I'm in handcuffs at the scene of a murder, so I'm not really sure you could call it deduction. It's more plain observation. Indeed, and observation, my dear boy, is the basis of all deduction. My method is founded upon the observation of trifles. You see, I announce my findings with a brassy certitude. And more often than not, I'm right. Ha. I don't think you introduced yourself. Ah, my apologies. How remiss of me. I am none other than the greatest detective of the century, known to men and women the world over. The inimitable Sherlock Holmes. So, it's really you? The actual Sherlock Holmes? The very same. The inimitable, actual Sherlock Holmes. Do you know this man, Sasato-san? The most famous detective in the world, Naruhodo-san. Of course I do. There's nobody who hasn't heard of him. What planet have I been living on then? We must ask him why he's deduced. He will have worked out the entire case already, I'm sure. Really? Why do I feel uneasy about this? So, you're a great detective, are you? Sorry, what was your name again? Oh, man. Indeed, I am none other than the one and only Sherlock Holmes. Oh, I see. You're German? Erlock, was it? No, I have no hair. I mean, I have hair. Please, call me Sholmes. You can read all about my exploits in this exciting London publication. Oh yes, Ranced Magazine, full of wonderful short stories and interesting articles from Great Britain. I never miss an issue. I have it sent from England specifically. Ah yes, here it is, The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. So, you're the protagonist in a series of short stories then? Indeed I am. And you've read so many of your own stories, you started to think you really are a detective. Make no mistake, I'm not the poor, deluded fellow you take me for. Your inference is backward. Backward? My trusty biographer records my greatest detecting achievements and chronicles them in the magazine. You have a biographer, do you? Doesn't everyone? Mine goes by the name of Dr. Wilson, presently keeping shop in London. Dr. Wilson? I must say, thanks to that publication, I've been fantastically busy of late. Why, this very moment I am returning from Asia, having solved the mystery of a cursed royal crown. Really? I can't work out whether I should take this man seriously or not. Deduction, you see, is to me a science. Logical reasoning in its purest form. A science? Really? The astute observer notices even the most subtle of reactions in his subject. A furtive glance, a twitch of a muscle, a slight indication of the posture. Fingernails, arm sleeves, furrows in the skin, all these things are data. Right. And the trained logician makes deductions from this data in the blink of an eye. The ultimate conclusion is, without fail, the truth. As I demonstrated only a few short moments ago. How can he look me in the eye and claim that? So you see, I would turn both for observation and for deduction and fame. That is what makes me the one and only Sherlock Holmes. Have you managed to deduce anything about this particular case yet? Have I managed to deduce anything, my dear fellow? Who do you suppose discovered the culprit in his most cunning hiding place? That's right. It was none other than the great detective before you now, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. Ah, I see. In other words, I'm in these now because of him. When I became anxious about Cosmo-sama this morning, I summoned all of the crew members to force the cabin door open. And I concealed myself among their number, gaining entry to the scene of the crime. Yes, luckily for everyone, the great detective Sherlock Holmes was on board. And the handcuffs seem to be an excellent fit, Mr. Naruhodo. The very moment I laid eyes on the scene, two facts were immediately apparent to me. Oh really? Two facts, you say? Mr. Holmes, tell us please. What two facts were apparent to you when you came into this cabin this morning? Ah yes, but first let us be precise. The two facts in question were immediately apparent to me. Yes, I understand, but what were they? Allow me to deduce they. The two facts that I deduced from a mere momentary glance at the scene of the crime were as follows. Number one, the cabin was locked from within, rendering escape of the culprit out of the question. Number two, the victim was Russian and killed following a dispute with an acquaintance. Hold on, Mr. Holmes, what made you think the victim was Russian? Observe the dying message left by the victim on the floor. That is the Russian word for wardrobe. Do you really think Cosmo could have left a dying message in Russian? In their final moments, many find their native tongue filling their head. For this young man, Russian. Kazuma was Russian, was he? Initially, I considered Garderobe, maybe the name of a killer. A certain Robert Guard, perhaps. But in the interest of thoroughness, I decided it would be wrong not to look inside the wardrobe there at least, where you found Mr. Naruhodo sleeping soundly. Quite so, I found you, the renowned Russian revolutionary killer. Why is it that I'm Russian too? Everyone's Russian now, come on. I observed that you were wearing the same attire as the victim. In other words, you were acquainted. And if my memory serves, that outfit is the traditional dress of the Russian people. Our school uniforms are the traditional dress of the Russian people? I had no idea. And I had no idea a detective could get something so wrong. I took a photograph of the victim and the message, that I might analyze it for possible hidden details. This was taken immediately after the young man was discovered, before the body was removed. Yes, Kazuma had already been taken away when I woke up. This is the first time I've actually seen him like this. Oh, it must be hard for Rinosuke. Are you alright, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh, yes. Thank you. The photograph of the crime scene has been entered into the court record. Can I ask you something, Mr. Sholmes? What, pray? You mentioned Russia before as well, didn't you? You know, when you said I was a fearsome revolutionary fleeing from Russia and all that. Ah, yes, the train of reasoning that led me to the truth. Would you mind explaining that train of reasoning to me, do you think? I can't speak that. Certainly if it interests you. How many times I'm not Russian and I don't speak Russian? Can we talk about your deduction before? The things you concluded about me, I mean. Ah, the now famously accurate, troubling predicament you find yourself in. Actually, it was the other details that I was more hoping to discuss. You know, the merciless Russian revolutionary and assassin of 16 part. Ah yes, the more sordid details. It was a fairly commonplace deduction. Here we have this morning's paper. The main headline reads, Revolutionary villain Bolshevik flees Russia via Shanghai. This vessel made a port call at Shanghai yesterday, and last night the young Russian was murdered. Since when was Kazuma a Russian? It sounds like Mr. Sholmes has concluded he was Russian because of what Kazuma-sama wrote on the floor. It was a simple act of reasoning to realize that the culprit of this crime was the same merciless revolutionary. One who would kill the very man who helped him to escape after his true identity was discovered. Yes, you. Villain Bolshevik. No, no, no. How could it be me? I don't look anything like this man. Just look at his face. Well, you are a fearsome revolutionary after all. Therefore, you have no doubt learnt to revolutionize your appearance as well. Ugh, please. And I might add, your name does not appear on the ship's passenger list, need I say more? Well, that's because I'm a stowaway. What about the other details? The 16 victims of assassination and blowing up the Crystal Tower? Ah, yes. The journalist clearly interviewed the man and printed all those particulars in the article. The deeds the man has perpetrated thus far and those he is plotting. Yes, everything about this revolutionary Bolshevik was concluded. There can be no mistake. Do revolutionaries usually agree to interview with newspaper reporters, I wonder? And what about the part where you said I was just returning from Afghanistan? Also quite clearly stated here in the article. Bolshevik is recently returned after a period of subversive activities in a war-torn region of Afghanistan. Where even is it anyway? This Afghanistan place. Here, take the paper for yourself as a little memento of this great deduction. Oh, thank you. I've absorbed all of that is of interest to me within its pages, but I see no rubbish bin nearby. And you may find the article on the back page of interest as well. On the back, cast your eye over it sometime if the interest takes you, though you may need this some time to interpret. Let's see. This is interesting. Have you found something relevant, Naruhodo-san? Well, no, I mean it looks like it might be interesting. I can't read a single word, I'm afraid. No, nor can I, but look at this picture. Perhaps it's about a beautiful young Russian princess, do you think? She is very pretty, isn't she? I suppose you enjoy articles like this, do you? I don't know. I can't make any sense of it. I'm glad you've noticed this article. Allow me to give you a short summary of its contents. Oh, thank you. It pops up everywhere, this Mr. Sholmes. It's about the disappearance of a young lady last night. Renowned prima ballerina of a Novavik ballet disappears from Shanghai. During a performance in Shanghai, the famous dancer is reported missing. She is, of course, the talented young Nikolina Pavlova. Why are Russian names so hard to remember? It would appear that the woman was in costume when she was found to be missing from her dressing room, wearing a diamond tiara you see pictured, which is worth some 20,000 rubles. Oh, how much is 20,000 rubles? I have no idea, but I'm quite sure it must be an unbelievable sum of money. Susato eyes are shining like diamonds themselves. The tiara is the property of the Novavik Ballet. It would seem that the director is beside herself with worry. Yes, I'm not surprised. The company is most anxious to recover both Miss Pavlova and the valuable tiara. They have requested international assistance at all ports with sailings to Great Britain. Could this be another case of a Russian fleeing his or her country? It does seem to be the Russian thing to do. I'm not even going to dignify that with a response, Mr. Naruhodo. Alright, we got that as a, maybe that'll be important somehow. It's all in Russian, I couldn't hope to read it. But I suppose it wouldn't hurt to just glance at the article, maybe there might be a picture or two. Maybe. Alright, well, you were just investigating. I'm sure it's all bullshit, I'm sure we'll break it down in trial anyways. Before we started talking, you were examining Cosmo's desk, weren't you? Cosmo? Yes, the victim. Did you notice anything useful? Anything at all? Observe for a moment. The desktop of the victim. We see that the victim was engaged in penning some text. London Diary. Cosmo was keeping notes of the trip. But I don't think you should read his private writings. It could upset people. Tragic. And something you ought to perhaps elucidate before the act of reading. You mean you've read it already? It is my business to know what other people do not. Yes, believe it or not, I know a smattering of Japanese. Oh, I see. Well, you're about to know what a Susato takedown is. Susato-san, aren't you going to throw out a detective with one of your trademark takedowns? I'm sorry, Naruhodo-san, what on earth do you mean? Life is so unfair. Anyway, to return to the matter at hand, namely this diary belonging to the victim, it would appear the final sentence is incomplete, as if the author were cut short. Tell me, what is the nature of the writing? Pray be precise as to details. Oh, but I thought you knew Japanese. A smattering, dear boy, a smattering. Sayonara bonsai mikado. Nado nado. I trust you're suitably impressed. But this diary is littered with complicated-looking characters, of which I can read precisely none. Ha 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 ha. So what was all that showing off about before then? If you would be so kind as to show me, I would be happy to read it to you, Mr. Sholmes. I'm much obliged, my dear madam. final entry here in Kazuma-sama's diary consists of just 2 short sentences. First reads, 1:23 a.m. I can hear a faint whistling sound. A whistling sound? These are very deep waters. Pray, go on. The second sentence reads, 1:35 a.m. What looks like some sort of speckled band is dangling from the ventilator grill. A speckled band? What on earth does that mean? Was he killed with a snake? I have no idea. I've never heard that expression before. The ventilator grill, you say? The man was presumably referring to the lattice there on the wall, which connects to the adjoining cabin. Yes, the adjoining cabin. Kazuma's diary has been entered into the court record. So, I believe I've given you enough to consider for the time being, at least. Do you have somewhere to go? As it happens, the victim's writings in his diary may have piqued my interest. The matter warrants further investigation, I believe, and if I am still too long, the seasickness takes hold. Oh, I suppose you're thinking of investigating the cabin next door, which the ventilator connects to. Great detectives are a curious breed. Our minds rebel at stagnation. We crave mental exhaustion. So yes, I intend to investigate, and the truth will become clear soon enough. Do you think perhaps that we could go with you? No, that would be somewhat complicated. What? But why? A simple glance at your wrist should reveal the answer. Oh, these. After all, you're the prime suspect in this matter. No? There's no point in trying to turn it into a question. You're the one who decided I was the culprit in the first place. Whatever do you mean? I have no recollection of naming you as the culprit at any point. You must be joking. You just said it only a moment ago. Dear me, you are clearly misguided. I would have no cause to say such a thing. Well, actually, Mr. Sholmes, I did hear you say that too. You're quite sure? Well, that's very strange. I wouldn't have said you had the face of a criminal, you know. Not really. So what, were you looking at my knees before? Some great detective you are. Well, anyway, that was then and this is now. What do you mean? What I mean, sir, is this. If you are the culprit, then you must play the part more convincingly. Roll over and accept your fate. Ha 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 ha. Now he's just being plain rude. And off he goes. Having just laughed in my face, his sense of humor is as twisted as his name. Naruhodo-san, what are you just standing there for? We must go investigate the cabin next door as well. Aren't you forgetting something? What about these? There's no way I can... yeah! She break the cuffs off me? After Kazuma-sama spent his dying moments struggling to leave us a clue, you're willing to give up? You're just going to roll over and accept your fate? Ugh. As if you gave me any choice in the rolling over part. Right? Just fucking flipped over. I think we still have some investigation to finish off in here first, don't we? Let's carry on examining what we can in his cabin while we wait for a chance to slip next door. Good idea. The situation doesn't look good for me, but there are still some things I can do to help myself. And I owe it to Kazuma to do everything I can to find a way out of this, and bring the real culprit to justice. Is that... something wrong, Naruhodo-san? Oh, no, it's just that crewman standing by the door. I can't help feeling like I've seen him somewhere. Me neither. Oh, yes, you're right. He does look familiar. Excuse me, sir. Yes, what can I do for you? It's him! I recognize that face, but it can't be. It is! I didn't know you were here, Inspector Hosonoga. Hello again. What are you doing here? I think that should be my line. I was so stunned when I saw you, my heart stopped. Nearly stopped, I hope. No, I bet it did stop. I received special orders to go undercover as a member of the crew and board the ship. Again? You certainly seem to enjoy undercover work, Inspector. If there's anything I can do to help you, please ask. I never expected to see this man on board, but perhaps his presence can help me out of this hopeless situation. Alright, let's converse. Special orders. So what are your special orders this time, Inspector? Yes, and why are you dressed as a member of the crew? I'm so sorry. This is all my fault. I take full responsibility. For what? My orders were to act as Asogi-san's bodyguard. It was Minister of Justice Jigoku who pushed for this overseas study tour to go ahead. And he entrusted me with ensuring that Asogi-san reached Great Britain without being assassinated. Assassinated? How could that even be a possibility? I'm not sure. But these are complicated times. There are tensions between the world's greatest powers. Minister Jigoku said we should be prepared for all eventualities. This is incredible. I don't believe it. Kazuma-sama was assassinated? Obviously, we couldn't give Asogi-san a visible security escort. Which is why I'm undercover now, posing as one of the crew. I see. And I didn't take my eyes off him the entire time we've been on board, from morning until night every day. But I never imagined it would happen here inside his own cabin, not here on the first-class deck. I failed miserably at my assignment, and Asogi-san is dead as a result. I'm a disgrace. All I can do is humbly apologize. Inspector. So if there's anything at all I can do to help now, just say the word. I want permission to investigate, sir. We're doing what we can to investigate Kazua's death herself. I thought you might be. You didn't do it, did you? You're not the killer. Of course not. We'd really like to investigate the cabin next door. Yes, so we need to be allowed out of this cabin. I'm sorry. What? We've been deemed a risk to the ship's safety. If you move to even touch the handle of the cabin door, that stormy-looking seaman there would surely snap your neck in two. I suppose I'm not just a stowaway now. They think I'm a murderer as well. Would it be possible to give me something to work with, do you think? I'm going to need something persuasive. What do you mean? If I had a solid reason why the next door cabin should be investigated, for example, I'd do everything I could to persuade the captain to allow it. Really, I'd lay my life on the line if I had to. But I don't see how. There may be a way. What? Really? Think of how you tried to persuade me of your innocence, Naruhodo-san, by presenting me with a piece of evidence that you already had in your possession. Evidence? It's just the same as when you were in court. You must have done it many times during your trial. Simply select the present panel and choose some evidence that Inspector Hasanaga could use. So evidence that would give us a viable reason to investigate the next door cabin, is it? Alright, yes, I think I might know what we can use. Let's see if I can prevent the evidence. Kazuma's diary. What's that? It's Kazuma's diary. Just before he died, Kazuma-sama wrote something rather strange in his diary. Strange? In what way? He wrote, what looks like some kind of a speckled band is dangling from the ventilator grill. A speckled band? That is strange. Yes, we're still trying to work out what he meant by that. But what I'd like to know is... Don't tell me. The ventilator, is it? You're very astute, Inspector. That ventilator clearly joins to the next door cabin. That's right, so if we could investigate in there, we might be able to work out what the speckled band was. Alright then. I can't leave this cabin at the moment. I'm stuck here until we arrive at the next port. The cabin has given me strict orders to guard the scene of the crime, you see. I'll have to entrust the investigation to you. Willie, you're willing to do that? Yes, as long as you don't leave the first-class cabin area. I'm afraid I can't remove those handcuffs, though. But what about the captain? Aren't you going against his direct orders? I'm a man of my word. And I promise you that I'll lay my life on the line if that's what it takes to convince the captain. After all, I failed to keep Asogi-san safe. This is the least I can do. Oh, I really like him. Such a good guy. Thank you. Let's seize the moment then, Naruto-san. Just select move and we can leave this cabin at last. Move. Alright, let's see what we can find out. Alright, I think that's going to be it for today's episode, guys. Next episode, we'll move to the next cabin, investigate there, maybe start the trial, who knows. But if you liked the video you saw today, please leave a like and a comment down below. And hey, maybe even subscribe. Without further ado, have a wonderful day.